After meeting Kofi, the young healer who saw beyond her beauty to her true self, Amara felt the first stirrings of hope in months. But with only 5.5 months until her 20th birthday, powerful suitors continued to arrive with increasingly tempting offers, while mysterious signs suggested the ancestral curse was growing stronger. The morning after her first conversation with Kofi brought unwelcome news that would change everything. As the sun rose over Sunshine Village, casting long shadows across the red earth paths, an impressive procession approached Baba Olu's compound. At its head rode a young woman astride a magnificent horse, her elaborate wrapper and gold jewelry marking her as someone of high status. This was Kemi, daughter of the wealthy palm oil merchant who controlled trade between their region and the great cities of the north. At 21, she was known throughout the area for her sharp intelligence, her family's vast wealth, and her imperious nature. She had never married, claiming that no man in the region was worthy of her elevated status. Behind Kemi rode 6 servants, carrying gifts that put all previous suitors' offerings to shame. Bolts of the finest cloth from distant lands, jewelry that sparkled with precious stones, and a carved wooden chest that undoubtedly contained gold. But Kemi had not come as a suitor. She had come as a rival. "Amara!" she called out as she dismounted from her horse with practiced grace. "Come out and face me if you dare." The commotion brought the entire family to the compound's entrance. Neighbors began gathering at a respectful distance, sensing that dramatic events were about to unfold. "Kemi, daughter of Adebayo," Baba Olu said formally, offering the traditional greeting, "You honor our compound with your presence. How may we serve you?" Kemi's laugh was sharp as a blade. "I have not come to be served, old man. I have come to issue a challenge to your daughter." Amara stepped forward, her chin raised in defiance despite the confusion in her eyes. "What challenge? What have I done to offend you? You exist," Kemi replied coldly. "For years, I have been considered the most eligible woman in this region. Men have competed for my attention. Families have sought alliance with mine. Poets have composed verses about my beauty and wit. But now, suddenly, every conversation in every village is about poor, cursed Amara and her desperate need for a husband." The crowd of onlookers murmured with interest. This was better than any drama the traveling storytellers provided. "I don't understand," Amara said honestly. "Your status has nothing to do with my situation, doesn't it?" Kemi's eyes flashed with anger. "Yesterday, I attended a gathering in Unity Springs, where 3 young men I had been considering as potential husbands spent the entire evening discussing whether they should offer for your hand instead. They spoke of you as if you were some tragic princess in need of rescue, while treating me as if I were merely another merchant's daughter." Mama Folek stepped protectively closer to her daughter. "Kemi, surely you understand that our family situation is not of our choosing. We would gladly trade places." "Would you?" Kemi interrupted. "Would you really give up the attention, the urgency, the way men compete to be your daughter's savior? I think you've discovered that desperation can be its own form of power." "That's enough," Baba Olu said firmly. "State your business or leave our compound in peace." Kemi smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Very well. I challenge Amara to a contest. We will each spend the next month being courted by the same pool of suitors. At the end of that time, the men will choose. Whoever wins the most marriage proposals proves herself the truly desirable woman." "And if I refuse this ridiculous challenge?" Amara asked. "Then I will ensure that every eligible man in 3 villages knows that you are so desperate you're afraid to compete fairly with other women. I'll suggest that perhaps your curse is divine punishment for some hidden flaw that makes you truly unworthy of love." The threat was clear and cruel. In a society where reputation was everything, such rumors could destroy Amara's chances of finding any husband, let alone one she could love. "What do you gain from this contest?" Amara asked, studying her unexpected rival. Proof that true worth cannot be overshadowed by pity and desperation. When I win more proposals than the famous cursed beauty, my status will be unquestioned. Amara looked at her parents, seeing the worry in their eyes. Then she thought of Kofi and the gentle hope he had awakened in her heart. I accept your challenge, she said clearly, but I have one condition of my own. Kemi raised an eyebrow. Name it. The suitors must know about the contest. They must choose with full knowledge that they're being asked to compete and compare. I won't win a husband through deception, even if it means losing your challenge. For the first time, Kemi looked surprised. She had expected desperation, not dignity. Agreed. Let the contest begin. Within days, word of the unprecedented contest had spread throughout the region. Young men who had never considered marriage suddenly found themselves drawn into the competition between two of the most desirable women they had ever encountered. The rules, as established by the village elders who agreed to oversee the contest, were straightforward. Each woman would receive suitors for 1 month. At the end of that time, any man who wished could make a formal marriage proposal to either woman. The woman who received the most proposals would be declared the winner. The first week brought a parade of potential husbands unlike anything Sunshine Village had ever seen. Wealthy merchants arrived from distant trading posts. Young chiefs sent envoys with preliminary offers. Even a few royal messengers appeared, representing princes from far-off kingdoms who had heard tales of the beautiful rivals. But as the competition progressed, Amara began to notice a troubling pattern. Many of the suitors seemed more interested in the spectacle than in either woman. They treated the contest like entertainment, placing bets on the outcome and discussing the rivals' relative merits as if they were prize livestock. Have you noticed, she asked Kofi during one of their evening conversations, how few of them actually try to get to know either of us? They ask about dowries and family connections, but not about our thoughts or dreams. Kofi nodded sadly. The contest has turned something sacred, the choice of a life partner, into a public game. It's not surprising that it attracts men who see marriage as acquisition rather than partnership. Meanwhile, Kemi was playing the game with ruthless efficiency. She hosted elaborate dinner parties for potential suitors, showcasing her family's wealth and her own accomplishments. She spoke knowledgeably about trade routes and political alliances, demonstrating her value as a strategic partner for ambitious men. She's very impressive, Mama Folak admitted after observing one of Kemi's gatherings from a distance. I can see why men would be drawn to her confidence and capabilities. But do any of them love her? Amara wondered aloud. Or do they simply want to possess what she represents? As the contest continued, Kofi found himself spending more and more time at Amara's compound. Officially, he was one of many suitors. In reality, he was falling deeply in love with a woman whose kindness and intelligence shone brighter with each conversation. Tell me about your dreams, he said one evening as they sat by the small stream that ran behind the village. The setting sun painted the water with gold and crimson reflections, and somewhere in the distance, a nightingale sang its evening song. Dreams seem like a luxury when you're facing a curse, Amara replied, but not unkindly. But if I could choose any life, I think I would like to be a healer of hearts rather than bodies. What do you mean? You heal physical ailments, but I think there are just as many people suffering from loneliness, fear, heartbreak, loss of hope. I would like to learn how to help heal those kinds of wounds. Kofi looked at her with growing wonder. Do you know that some of the greatest healers in our tradition were women? They understood that the body and spirit are connected, that you cannot treat one without considering the other. Could you teach me? Amara asked eagerly. About healing, I mean. Whether this contest ends with my marriage or with the curse claiming me, I'd like to spend whatever time I have learning something useful. Of course, Kofi said immediately. We could start with simple remedies. Herbs for common ailments, techniques for easing pain and promoting healing. My master would be honored to have such a dedicated student. As they talked, sharing dreams and possibilities, both young people felt the world expanding around them. This was more than courtship. It was the recognition of kindred spirits who could build a life of shared purpose and mutual support. But their growing closeness did not go unnoticed. Kemi had expected to dominate the contest easily. Her wealth, connections, and obvious practical advantages should have made her the clear choice for any rational man seeking a wife. But as the second week progressed, she noticed that many of the most desirable suitors seemed more interested in Amara's gentle charm than in her own formidable accomplishments. More troubling still, she observed the growing bond between Amara and the young healer. While other suitors came and went, Kofi remained constant, and his obvious devotion to Amara was beginning to influence other men's perceptions. If one man can love her that deeply, she overheard a wealthy trader saying to his friend, "Perhaps there's something special about her that I'm missing." This would not do. Kemi had not arranged this contest to watch her rival discover true love while she collected meaningless proposals from men who saw her only as a profitable alliance. She began subtle campaign of rumors and insinuations. At social gatherings, she would mention how strange it was that Amara's curse had begun affecting her appearance. Hadn't people noticed that she looked pale and tired lately? Surely that was a sign that the curse was beginning to manifest physically. "I've heard," she would say in carefully staged whispers, "that the curse doesn't just turn the woman to stone. It also brings misfortune to anyone who associates closely with the family. Haven't there been an unusual number of accidents and illnesses in Sunshine Village lately?" These rumors began to take root. Some of the more superstitious suitors quietly withdrew their interest. Others began treating Amara with nervous caution, as if proximity to her might somehow contaminate them with her family's bad luck. But Kemi's most devastating action was yet to come. She approached Baba Tunde, a powerful native doctor known for his ability to manipulate spiritual forces, and paid him a substantial sum to create a love charm that would bind Kofi's affections to her instead of Amara. "I don't want to hurt the boy," she explained, as the native doctor prepared his powders and potions. "I simply want him to see clearly where his interests truly lie. A healer needs a wife with resources and connections, not a cursed girl with nothing to offer but beauty." The charm was subtle but powerful. Mixed into palm wine and served to Kofi during a gathering at Kemi's compound, it was designed to cloud his judgment and redirect his romantic feelings. At first, the charm seemed to work perfectly. Kofi began spending less time at Amara's compound and more time accepting Kemi's invitations to dinners and social events. When he spoke with Amara, he seemed distant and distracted, his previous warmth replaced by polite formality. "Have I done something wrong?" Amara asked him directly after a particularly stilted conversation. "You seem so different lately." Kofi frowned, as if trying to remember something important. I'm not sure. I've been having strange dreams, and my thoughts feel clouded. Perhaps I'm working too hard. Maybe you should rest," Amara suggested, though her heart was breaking. After weeks of growing closeness, the sudden distance between them felt like a physical wound. "Yes," Kofi agreed vaguely. "Rest would be good. Kemi has suggested that I might benefit from a few days at her family's compound outside the village. The quiet and luxury might help clear my mind." Amara nodded, unable to trust her voice. She watched him walk away, his step lacking its usual purposeful stride, and knew that somehow she was losing the only man who had ever truly seen her. That night, she went alone to the sacred grove, where the stone figures of her ancestors stood in eternal silence. 7 women who had faced the same choice she now confronted. 7 who had failed to find love in time. "Help me understand," she whispered to the pale statues. "Is this my fate? To find love only to lose it to forces beyond my control?" The night wind stirred the leaves overhead, and for a moment, Amara could have sworn she heard voices whispering in the darkness. Warnings, encouragements, lamentations that had echoed through generations of cursed women. But spiritual magic, no matter how skillfully crafted, cannot completely overpower a heart that has found its true calling. As Kofi spent time at Kemi's family compound, surrounded by luxury and attention, part of his spirit continued to struggle against the artificial constraints placed upon it. In his dreams, he saw Amara's face, not her celebrated beauty, but her intelligence, her kindness, her passion for healing hearts and spirits. He remembered conversations about shared dreams and mutual respect, connections that had nothing to do with wealth or status. On the third night at Kemi's compound, the charm's hold finally weakened enough for him to think clearly. He realized that his recent behavior had been like walking through fog, making decisions that felt foreign to his true nature. More importantly, he began to notice things about Kemi that his clouded judgment had missed. Her kindness was conditional, offered only when it served her purposes. Her conversations focused relentlessly on advancement and acquisition. Her interest in him seemed to have little to do with who he was, and everything to do with what he might provide for her ambitions. "I need to return to the village," he announced the next morning, declining Kemi's invitation to extend his stay. "But why?" Kemi asked, her voice sharp with frustration. "I had thought we were growing closer. I had hoped you might consider making a formal proposal." "I'm honored by your interest," Kofi replied carefully, "but I don't think we're well suited as partners. Our goals and values seem to point in different directions." Kemi's eyes flashed with anger, but she kept her voice level. "I see. And I suppose your goals and values point toward the cursed girl who has nothing to offer but a tragic story. They point towards someone who sees healing as service rather than profit, who values kindness over status, who would rather build something meaningful than simply acquire what others have built." As Kofi walked back towards Sunshine Village, his mind clear for the first time in days, he felt both relief and urgency. The contest would end in a few days, and he had wasted precious time under the influence of Kemi's manipulation. But more than that, he realized that Amara's deadline was not just about marriage. It was about finding someone who would love her enough to face the unknown consequences of her family's curse. And he knew, with the certainty that comes from seeing one's path clearly, that he was that person. That evening, as the contest entered its final days, Kofi appeared at Amara's compound just as she was helping her mother prepare the evening meal. The sound of his voice calling her name made her heart leap with hope and fear in equal measure. "Amara, I need to speak with you. There are things I must explain, apologies I must make." But before she could respond, a new arrival interrupted them. Chief Emeka's messenger rode into the compound with urgent news. "The chief has made his decision," the young man announced formally. "He wishes to finalize marriage negotiations immediately. He has heard rumors that other suitors plan to make offers tomorrow, and he will not be denied. He demands an answer by sunrise." Behind the messenger, the sounds of approaching horses suggested that Chief Emeka himself was not far behind, along with what sounded like a substantial entourage. Amara looked from the messenger to Kofi, seeing her future balanced on a knife's edge. The chief's proposal would solve her family's immediate crisis and ensure her escape from the curse. But it would also mean abandoning any hope of the love that was finally within her reach. "Tell your master," she said quietly, "that I will give him his answer at sunrise." As the messenger departed and the sounds of Chief Emeka's approach grew louder, Amara felt the weight of destiny pressing down upon her. In just a few hours, she would have to choose between security and love, between the safe path and the uncertain one. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the village, the stone figures of her ancestors seemed to lean forward in their eternal vigil, waiting to see if their descendant would break the cycle of their cursed bloodline or join them in their silent garden of regret. Could love truly conquer the darkness that haunted Amara's family? With time running short and powerful forces demanding their due, would she find the courage to follow her heart? Or would fear drive her toward a loveless but secure future? The dawn would bring answers that would echo through generations,